Max Scherzer set to make his second start off the IL for tonight, and he looked fantastic in that first one. 11 strikeouts, 6 shutout innings, but now facing the Braves, and it's on the road. It's a very tough assignment for a guy who was hurt not that long ago. So our question is, do we use Scherzer? Do we load up on him as our top guy, or is there someone else we can consider as potentially being the top arm for tonight? And looking at Scherzer, comparing him to the field, I kind of think Scherzer, despite the tough matchup, is the top pitcher for tonight. We'll break that down and let you know what I'm seeing for tonight's slate in just 1 second. Welcome on into the solo shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Here to break down Monday's 7-game main slate with lock set for 7:10 p.m. Eastern for today. So 5 extra minutes to destroy your lineups before we hit lock for tonight. The lone weather note for today is that it is very, very warm in St. Louis today. 96 degrees for the Phillies and the Cardinals. That is a bump up to batters there. I do still like the pitchers in that one. It's Miles Mikolas versus Aaron Nola, but do bump them down a bit due to the weather in St. Louis for today, but no rain as of right now for this slate. We'll break down Scherzer versus the field in just 1 second. But first, a quick reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Coming up later on today, we have our preview of the Open Championship for PGA DFS with myself and Brandon Gadula breaking down our favorite golfers in each salary tier on FanDuel for this week, letting you know everything you need to get set for this weekend at St. Andrews. Should be a pretty fun week for some golf. So check that out on the FanDuel YouTube page. We'll be live there probably around 2:30 p.m. Eastern or so, and then up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed after that. This season, turn Ks into cash and big hits into big wins with FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. With great promotions every day, a safe and secure app, and the ability to get paid fast, there is no better place to bet America's pastime than on America's #1 sportsbook. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up today to get started with your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Louisiana, 1-877-770-STOP. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Tennessee, call the Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. In Wyoming, 1-800-522-4700. Or in West Virginia, 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Pitching preview for this Monday's main slate. No shocker, Max Scherzer is the highest salary pitcher on FanDuel, checking in at just $10,700. Not too bad for the upside he brings. Max Fried facing Max Scherzer. Max is 10-4. Aaron Nola is 10-1 with Merrill Kelly at 9-2 and Sean Manaea at Coors at 9,000 with Miles Mikolas, Lance Lynn, and Alex Cobb, the others at $8,000 or higher. Now, there is risk with Max Scherzer for today. It is just the second start off the IL. He's on the road, facing a very good team, and it's in a hitter-friendly park. I still think he is the top guy in the slate by a big margin. So if I'm taking Max Scherzer versus the field, I probably need pretty good odds in the field to go with them here. The Braves are tough. They have a 119 WRC plus against righties in their current active roster with a 211 ISO. That's far and away the best mark on this slate. So it is tough, but he's still so good. And you know what he did last week. Again, 11 strikeouts, 6 shutout innings on just 79 pitches, but he is more stretched out than that. They said he was good to go 90 pitches or 6 innings. He just didn't need the full 90 to get those 11 strikeouts in 6 innings. He also did go 80 pitches in a rehab start. So if Scherzer was good to go 90 last time, I am fine projecting him for 95 this time around. And the effectiveness was good too. He kept leaning on his slider, which is something that Scherzer was doing before he hit the IL. In 6 starts, including last week with more sliders, Scherzer has a 32% strikeout rate with a 3% walk rate and a 2.47 skill interactive ERA. In those 6 starts, Scherzer has hit double digits twice. He had 9 strikeouts in another. Scherzer are projected for 8.3 strikeouts for tonight. Nobody else in the slate is within 2 strikeouts of him. So it's Scherzer, gap, and everybody else. So it is risky. And it is risky to use a guy who's in a tough spot who will be the chalk for the night, but I can't find any viable alternatives. I'm okay with being different without being stupid, but I don't think I would be super smart to deviate from Scherzer here. So to me, Max Scherzer belongs to the top of our list by a pretty decent margin for tonight. Now, I do think we should keep Max Fried second on our list in that exact same game. It's also not an ideal matchup for him. The Mets are pretty good against lefties, but they're less powerful than the Braves. And I think that Fried's floor here is pretty high. The bigger question mark for me is the ceiling here, but not a ton of guys on this slate can hang with Scherzer anyway. And I like everything else about Fried. Basically, what you're betting on is that Scherzer struggles and doesn't put up a big game, and then you're kind of just looking for who will be the best option beyond that. We can focus a bit on floor there, and Fried does grade out well. I like everything else about Fried outside of the upside. His most relevant sample is his past 9 starts, where he's been throwing his curveball a bit less. He has a 3.32 skill interactive ERA in that time with a 23% strikeout rate, and he's doing this while still keeping the sick batted ball data he has had for a very long time. That's another reason that his floor is high, the good batted ball data. I think the ceiling is decent, not great, but decent. I've got Fried projected for 5.1 strikeouts tonight. That is lower than Aaron Nola, but Nola is on the road against an equally tough team. I think that the floor for Nola is lower, and Fried's ceiling is at least comparable. He has 8+ strikeouts in 3 of 9 relevant starts. He hit 8 innings in another, went 7 innings twice as well. So he's not perfect. It's not a great matchup. He's not the highest upside guy, but when you look at this slate, it's hard to find guys who are great alternatives to Scherzer, which just cements again why Scherzer's number 1. But I think Fried is number 2, all things considered, by a hair above Nola. I do like Nola, and I think that Nola is someone else will get double-digit strikeouts. It's probably him, despite a tough matchup. But I'll put Fried 2 slightly above Nola for the second slot. One guy who is very similar to Fried is Miles Mikolas, and I think I'm going to make him the top value of the night, $8,800. Mikolas is higher upside than you may think. He's been throwing more four-seamers across his past 8 starts, and he actually has a 21% strikeout rate in that time, which is not terrible for this slate. He still has solid batted ball numbers too, with a 35% hard hit rate and a 36% fly ball rate. So kind of across the board, the numbers for Mikolas in this time are solid. And it's not a bad matchup today against the Phillies. Their active roster has a 93 WRC plus against righties with a 23% strikeout rate. Now, you could say Mikolas just faced him 2 weeks ago, didn't fare all that well, 1 strikeout across 5 innings, which is not ideal. And it means they have seen him recently. But Mikolas had 9 strikeouts the time before that. He had 9 a couple starts earlier as well. Plus, he does have a slightly better strikeout rate at home than he does on the road. I've got Mikolas projected for 5.1 strikeouts. That is right in line with Fried. Probably not going to be on a ton of radars because Miles Mikolas is not a guy people should or do get excited about, but he does help save some salary here at $8,800. If you want to load up on Coors Field, if you want to load up on the Rangers, who we'll talk about later on, Mikolas could be a good route for doing that. So I don't think you need to save salary tonight, given that Scherzer is 10-7, which is not that bad. Fried's 10-4, Nola 10-1. Those are all fine. So I don't think you need to save salary, but Mikolas is actually good enough where I would be okay having him in my player pool for tonight. But to me, it's really Scherzer and everyone else. I think that he is head and shoulders above everybody else on the slate for today. As far as stacking goes, we do have a Coors Field game for tonight. It includes the Padres against Jose Urena, and I think we should go pretty hard at the Padres as our top stack for tonight. Urena had a really nice start last time out. He held the Dodgers to 1 run across 6 2/3 innings, but there was some luck in that. He had just 2 strikeouts compared to 3 walks, and he let up a 43% hard hit rate and a 43% fly ball rate. So the fact that he had good results there seems pretty fluky, which means that we can look at the minor league numbers for Urena, which is about a 5-start sample. In 21 AAA innings, he had a 7.29 ERA, also a pretty bad park for pitching. So that's worth noting, the park factor not in his favor there. But he had almost as many walks as strikeouts. Didn't he did get some ground balls. I think that's the one thing that is a negative in terms of stacking against him, but we haven't seen that in the big leagues so far yet. Before or after his injury, as mentioned, the Dodgers had a 43% fly ball rate against him last week. The projected FIP, fielding independent pitching at Zips via Dan Szymborski at Fangraphs, is 5.65 for Urania this year. It's 5.44 at the bat via Derek Carty, and that's even as mostly a reliever, where you expect numbers to be better. So I think that Urania is a guy we can stack against here, especially with this game being at Coors Field. So the Padres, to me, are the clear number one stack for today. In the past against Urania, we have heavily bumped up left-handed batters, and that was true last year too, where we had the larger sample against him. I'm going to keep that as a baseline assumption here. Obviously, Manny Machado, Luke Voit are very, very good plays, but I think the main takeaway is you bump up Jake Cronenworth. Cronenworth, still putting the ball in the air a lot. Hasn't had the same power numbers this year as he had last year, but putting the ball in the air a lot, should bat high in the order. I like him quite a bit. Trent Grisham probably going to bat a bit lower in the order, potentially as low as like 8th or 9th, but I'd still be fine with him there. I think that he definitely does work. Nomar Mazara is fine, but I think that the primary takeaway is that Cronenworth is, I would say, in the same tier-ish as Machado and Voit, despite the fact his overall numbers this year, against righties even, are a bit lower than theirs. For the number 2 stack, the Rangers are facing Adrian Martinez, and he's got good potential still. There's some prospect pedigree in there. It hasn't translated to results yet, either in AAA or the majors, so I do feel good stacking against him with the Rangers for tonight. We've seen Martinez make 3 starts in the majors, and he's made 13 starts in AAA, so a good sample down there. ERA in AAA was 5.63, and it seems like, reading into the numbers, that was due in large part due to hard contact. The peripherals were fine for Martinez, but the results were bad. And typically what that means is he's letting up a bad contact profile on the balls in play against him. We've seen something similar in the majors too. Martinez let up a 43% hard hit rate in 3 starts, which puts his expected ERA at 5.89. He did face the Jays, and they're a super tough team. But the other starts for Martinez were against the Mariners and the Tigers. The Tiger start was back in May, so, maybe he's made some changes since then. And he did pitch well there too. But the Mariners game, they are a solid offense against righties, but not spectacular. I'd say above average for sure. The Rangers are pretty middling. I'd say probably a bit below the Mariners, but I still think they grade out solidly here based on the results that Martinez had in AAA, based on what we've seen so far in the majors. I think there's definitely enough here to stack the Rangers, and it does help when stacking them that they're studs. The guys they brought in to catalyze this offense are hitting better now. Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Seager has a 12.7% barrel rate since the middle part of June with a 243 ISO. Semien in that same time has a 39% hard hit rate per Baseball Savant with a 244 ISO. Does have 3 stolen bases in that time too. So we're not giving out value plays here with Semien and Seager. They're pretty high salary, but I think if you're looking at this lineup as a whole, if you got Adolis Garcia with Seager and Semien both playing well, that's 3 legit hitters in this lineup to boost up the rest of the lineup too. So it does give me more comfort in stacking them, even if I know it's not going to be easy to stack them, given that I do want to use Scherzer, I do want to stack Coors, and their salaries are pretty high for tonight. For the third stack, I'm pretty torn on the Rockies. On the one hand, I've used Sean Manaea a pretty decent amount this year, and it's worked out well at times. And I think he could do well against them. On the other hand, it is Coors Field, and Manaea is not bulletproof, and he's had some blips recently. So I do think that the Rockies belong third on our list, even if they are a flawed offense. Manaea can get strikeouts. He has a 25% strikeout rate so far this year. But the other stuff is an issue. He has a 10% walk rate, 40% hard hit rate, 42% fly ball rate, which is why his ERA is over 4 this year, despite getting a decent number of strikeouts. We've also seen his velocity dip the past 2 starts for Manaea. One of those was at home. One of those was on the road. But the velocity was the lowest in those 2 starts that it has been since April 24th. It was pretty low to start, jumped up, and now has jumped back down. And what's more concerning, again, is that the swing and strike rate in those 2 starts was below 10%. Got hit around a bit, too. So might not have Manaea pitching at his absolute best right now. He's not going to Coors Field. He has not faced the Rockies yet, so no familiarity there, but they are better offense against lefties than they are against righties. Their WRC+, which accounts for Park, is 117 against lefties, with just a 19% strikeout rate. So no, I don't think the Rockies are a must-stack offense for tonight, despite being at Coors Field, and I do prefer the Padres here, but they're still a good stack, the Rockies are. I'll be into them as my third-ranked option for tonight, behind the Padres, behind the Rangers. We'll go with the Rockies after that. Again, kind of similar to the Rangers discussion, it does help here that the free agent guys are coming on. Chris Bryant is hitting the ball hard finally, and that's a big plus. But Randal Grichuk might be slowly coming into things too. He had a couple barrels over the weekend in one game. It has a 48% hard hit rate since the middle of June on, with a 203 ISO. He hasn't had a lot of hits recently, and ISO does not account for the fact that you're not getting any base hits, so maybe it's fluky. But I like the hard contact, not striking out too much. $2,000, platoon advantage, Coors Field. Manaea does let up some hard contact and fly balls. I'll be on Grichuk here. I think that it makes sense to buy into him, given some of the data we've seen, even if the hits have not been there as of yet. Things to watch for tonight. Interested to see what Brian Bayo can do in his second start for the Red Sox. Did get kicked around a bit in his first start, but he had a 34% strikeout rate in AAA. Got a ton of ground balls down there too. And I love that kind of guy. If he can get some strikeouts, get you some ground balls, it's a fun archetype for DFS. The problem for Bayo is that he's facing the Rays for a second straight start. So not going to get there for DFS tonight, but I want to keep him on my radar to see what he does. No guarantee he sticks in the rotation beyond this start, but I want to see what he does, because I think that the profile he presents is pretty interesting, and interesting enough where I will be receptive to him if he does show up pretty well here, given the complications with it being a second straight start against them. But Bayo, to me, intriguing, I would say, for tonight. Kind of similar idea for Spencer Howard. Not as high on Howard individually as I am on a guy like Bayo, and I don't think his leash should be very long. I've got him projected for 80 pitches tonight, Howard. But again, good numbers in AAA, a lot of strikeouts there. He lets up a lot of hard contacts, a different contact profile than Bayo. Got hit by the Orioles last week, so, there's no shame in that. The Orioles have been playing really good baseball recently, but I think you could give some thought to the A's as some one-offs for tonight if you can find guys you like using on that offense. Not the worst idea given the kind of contact Howard has let up. I think that's actually an okay route to at least consider for tonight. The White Sox could be another source, of some one-offs, and I mean literally one guy. They're facing Cal Quantrill, pretty solid guy. He's had some bumps recently, though, and he struggles more against lefties. So when I said one-offs, literally, it's Gavin Sheets, basically. He's the primary guy here. Other lefty in their lineup is Yoan Moncada, or switch hitter. I've not seen enough out of Moncada since he came back to get excited about him. So not going to get to Moncada, but if you need another potential one-off guy, I think that Gavin Sheets would be someone you could consider in that realm. He is $2,600, first base and outfield on FanDuel. So, some flexibility there. Salary savings too. Sheets could be a guy you could turn to for one-offs against Quantrill for tonight. Let's finish up here with some dinger calls, and I'm sorry, both these are at Coors Field, so maybe it's double boring, but the home run calls for today, Jake Cronenworth and Randal Grichuk, couldn't quite go with like a Machado or a Voit call because it seems a little bit too boring for the Padres, but I do think that I feel pretty good about Cronenworth for tonight. Again, putting the ball in the air hasn't resulted in a ton of power so far this year, but I like the batted ball profile. So I'll go with Jake Cronenworth. The quote unquote fun one is Grichuk. And this may seem stupid because Grichuk actually has much shorter home run odds than Cronenworth for tonight on FanDuel Sportsbook. So maybe it's not actually, should flip those two, but I will go with Jake Cronenworth and Randal Grichuk as the home run calls for today. That is all that we have here for today on this Monday main slate. But as I said, do not forget, we've got our Open Championship preview coming up later on today on the FanDuel YouTube page and up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. I guesstimate 2:30 as the record time for that if you want to watch over on YouTube. So swing back for that. Hit subscribe on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed to get our PGA, MLB, UFC, and NASCAR podcasts as they are posted each day throughout the week. If you've got any questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your MLB DFS lineups. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow to break down Tuesday's slate. This has been the solo shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.